I didn't recognise either of the men, and I didn't wait about to introduce myself. I took myself and my milkweeds off as fast as I could go. Luckily, I found Jamie within half an hour, passing the time of day with Tom MacLeod, the coffin maker. "Who's dead?" I gasped, out of breath from scrambling down the mountain.
"No one yet," Jamie said, eyeing me. "But you look like you're about to be, Sassenach. What's happened?"
I set my basket on a sawhorse, sat down on another, and told them, pausing to gasp for breath or gulp water from the canteen Tom handed me.
"Nothing up that path but Captain Cunningham's place, is there?" Tom observed. "You mean they maybe didn't go up that way by accident, eh?"
Jamie stuck his head out of the coffin shed and looked up at the sky.
"It's going to rain soon. Be a pity if our friends find themselves stuck in the mud."
Tom grunted in approval, and without further consultation went into his house, returning in less than a minute with an old leather hat on his head, a good rifle in his hand, a pistol in his belt, and a cartridge box slung over his bowed shoulder. He had a second pistol in his other hand, which he gave Jamie. Jamie nodded, checked the priming, and stuck it in his own belt. Absently touching his dirk, he nodded to me.
"Go get young Ian, will you, Sassenach? I saw him mowing in his upper field not an hour since."
"But what—"
"Go," he said, though mildly. "Dinna fash, Sassenach. It'll be fine."
I found young Ian, not in his upper field, but in the woods nearby, rifle in hand. "Don't shoot," I called, spotting him through the brush. "It's me."
"I couldna mistake you for anything save a small bear or a large hog, Auntie," he assured me, as I poured my way through a clump of dogwood toward him. "And I dinna want either one of those today."
"Fine. How about a nice fat pair of gun runners?" I explained as well as I could while jog-trotting along behind him as he detoured through the field in order to grab his scythe, which he thrust into my hands.
"I dinna think you'll have to use it, Auntie," he said, grinning at the look on my face. "But if you stand there blocking the trail, it would be a desperate man would try to go through you."
When we arrived, we discovered that the trail had already been effectively blocked by the first mule's burden, which he had succeeded in shedding completely. When Ian and I showed up a little way below the gun runners, the first mule, enjoying his new lightness of spirit, was nimbly climbing over the pile of bags, boxes, and wickerwork toward us, intent on joining his fellow, who was not letting his own pack stop him from browsing a large patch of blackberry brambles that edged the trail just there. Evidently, we had arrived almost at the same time as Jamie and Tom MacLeod, for the two gun runners had turned to gawk at me and Ian just as Jamie and Tom came into sight on the trail above them.
"Who the devil are you?" one of the men demanded, looking from me to Ian in bewilderment.
Ian had tied up his hair in a topknot to keep it out of the way while mowing, and without his shirt, deeply tanned and tattooed, he looked very like the Mohawk he was. I didn't want to think what I must look like, comprehensively dishevelled, and with my hair full of leaves and coming down, but I gripped my scythe and gave them a stern look.
"I'm Ian Og Murray," Ian said mildly, and nodded at me. "And that's my auntie. Whoops."
The first mule was nosing his way determinedly between us, causing us both to step off the path.
"I'm Ian Murray," Ian repeated,
stepping back and bringing his rifle back into a relaxed but definitely ready position across his chest.
"And I," said a deep voice from above, "am Colonel James Fraser of Fraser's Ridge, and that's my wife."